Hello everybody, welcome to Ask JP. Let's take the questioner today, Kotaya Swami from Tampa, Florida. He's in the software sector.
Hi sir, my name is Kotaya Swami. Now, my question is about the NRI voting rights, sir. Indian Election Commission, why can't provide the NRI voting rights? Thank you.
Thank you. Very simple, straightforward question. Under the law, NRIs, if they're Indian citizens, do have voting rights if they're registered as voters in India. But the problem is, you have to come to India to vote. Most other countries actually have extraordinarily flexible provisions. Citizens abroad can vote in that country. Britain and other countries actually provide polling booths or ballots, and they can send them locally. Some other countries allow electronic voting for those people who are abroad. In India, even if you're registered as a voter, if you're a non-resident Indian, you have to come to the polling booth in your place of voter registration and then vote. It's impractical. And therefore, in reality, the expatriate Indians, overseas Indians, even if they're Indian citizens and registered to vote, they cannot really vote. Now, there are two things that we can easily do. The first is there is a system of postal balloting in India. Only two classes of people can vote through postal ballot. One, the servicemen and women, the people employed in the armed forces of India. Two, the government employees involved in the election duties. It may be the security personnel, the police and the other security forces. It may be employees deployed for the election conduct. These two classes of people alone are allowed to vote through postal ballot. Now, there is no good reason why non-resident Indians cannot be given the facility of postal ballot. If you don't have to come to the country and then vote here at enormous expense and difficulty, which really doesn't happen, then many people may be inclined to vote. And it's not a difficult thing at all to give them the right to vote by postal ballot. Only thing is, in addition to the right to vote by postal ballot, there must be a mechanism, and in these days of technology that's not difficult, a mechanism to download their ballot paper. Because typically in case of postal ballots, returning officer sends to those people entitled to get postal ballots in advance printed postal ballot papers. They will reach the person and the person should mark them in an appropriate manner and then send it to the returning officer before a certain date. Now, if it's overseas mailing, for the returning officer to send abroad these papers and for them to register their vote and then send them back by mail, it becomes cumbersome. Because typically, the period between the finalization of the ballot paper and the polling is no more than 2 to 3 weeks. Now, in 2 weeks' time, for these ballots to be printed, then sent to the other countries, and then after voting for the ballots to come back to the country, it's unlikely to happen. Therefore, we can have in these days of technology a mechanism by which the appropriate ballot paper with appropriate codes and other provisions can be downloaded by the individual abroad. If she belongs to, let us say, a particular assembly segment in a particular Lok Sabha constituency, then that ballot paper pertaining to assembly or Lok Sabha election can be downloaded locally there. And once they print it out, in the manner designated by law, they can record their vote. There will be some requirement of identity and so on and so forth. And then they can actually mail it to the returning officer. That, I think, will make it possible for many people to exercise their vote. It's a simple process. In my judgment, a non-controversial process. And there can be safeguards to ensure that there is no mischief or misuse of the ballot papers. But we can even think of something bigger. Supposing you actually allow electronic voting on a pilot basis only to overseas voters, then perhaps that will be even easier. With adequate safeguards, we can provide electronic voting mechanism. Of course, there are all kinds of fears with electronic voting because these are not discrete machines. We're not talking of online voting, unlike our electronic voting machines. Even the EVMs, electronic voting machines, it took almost a generation, 20-25 years, for the political system and the people to accept it. Well, they're all perfectly safe and there is no evidence of any serious tampering or mischief, there are perpetual doubts. Many political leaders, whenever they lose elections, they make complaints. Sometimes they went to courts. But now, by and large, political parties and the people are convinced that these EVMs are very safe. But these are discrete machines, they are not networked machines. It's not online voting. But if you talk about electronic voting online for the overseas Indians, even greater safeguards are required. Before introducing that in the whole country, I think it will be a good idea to introduce that after appropriate legal provisions for the overseas voters. We can see how it works, first on a pilot basis even there, and then later slowly, if it works to our satisfaction and if everybody is happy and there are no credible complaints, we can extend it to the rest of the country. I think both these, the first one is an easier option, a postal ballot. Second one requires greater doing and greater confidence in the political system and the public about the integrity of the election process. We must not take it lightly. And finally, we must even look at another much bigger thing. Most countries in the world, including our neighbors Pakistan and Bangladesh, almost every single major country, democratic country in the world, allows dual citizenship. By not allowing dual citizenship, we're actually losing some of our most committed Indians. If you ask them to make a cruel choice between a citizenship in a country where they have made their career in life, where their families are with them, where their children are growing, and the mother country for which they have enormous love and respect, it's not a very wise thing from India's point of view. So if Britain, France, Germany, Japan, America, other countries, they all allow dual citizenship, it makes no sense that we do not allow it. We can do it on reciprocal basis. We can do it only for democratic countries. It's our choice. But if we allow dual citizenship, then not only non-resident Indians who are Indian citizens, but people of Indian origin who move to another country, who are considering or accepting citizenship of another country for whatever reasons, they can continue to remain as Indian citizens. Not only will they play a creative role in our political process, build the pressure for a reformed polity, away from the money power, freebies and divisions, but they will also be an asset for the country. Once you continue to remain a citizen, you can also contribute economically and socially for India. As they say, you may take an Indian out of India, but you cannot take India out of an Indian. We'll be smart as a country to take advantage of that sentiment, that bond with the mother country. Instead of losing them to another country through citizenship, it's better to allow them to acquire that citizenship without losing our citizenship. But all these three, the postal ballot paper, electronic voting, and ultimately dual citizenship, I think India should progressively move in that direction if we want to get the best out of our non-resident Indians in order to improve the nature of politics in this country.